This is the ultimate guide to learn Ableton. In this video, I'm showing you every single technique to start making music like a pro, from navigation through composition to arrangement. Today, you're gonna learn it all. Even if you're a complete beginner and this is your first time ever opening Ableton, because I used to be just like you, overwhelmed and confused with all the possibilities. But now, I can just open Ableton and simply make music. Music that gets thousands of streams on Spotify and gets me booked at music festivals. And after helping tons of bedroom producers one-on-one, I figured out exactly where they get stuck. Implementation. Which is why I need to show you how to actually use this video. And this is very important. The best way to learn is by doing. So this video is actionable. Whatever I'm going to be doing, like even the smallest little things, I want you to do them as well. In your own window, in your own creative interpretation. So you can pause the video, implement the stuff, and then come back and continue watching. So open Ableton right now, because that way you can get the most from this video. Trust me, this is for your own good, okay? Don't make me ask twice. Alright, this video is split into 3 levels. And to start with, in level 1, I'm going to show you the basics. Let's get into it. I'm gonna assume that you open Ableton for the first time ever. So what you're seeing right now is the session view, right? This is one of the 2 main modes of Ableton. The other one is arrangement view, and you can switch between the 2 with these buttons up here. And yeah, these little rectangles, we'll get to them in a second, but you can notice that in both session view and arrangement view, they're pretty much the same thing. It's just that in session view, they're put vertically, and in arrangement view, they're horizontal. But let's stick to arrangement view for now, just to keep things simple. And right now, I want you to look inside the file library on the left. It's this area right here. In case you can't see it, you might have to press this button. So this is your place where you're gonna find all your samples, all the instruments, audio effects, stuff like that, basically everything. So actually let's start by adding a kick, and this is where our first keyboard shortcut comes in. Command F or Control F if you're on Windows. Once you press that, it's gonna automatically prompt you to search for something. So let's type in kick, and you can see all these kicks have now shown up. Let's choose this one. So I'm gonna now drag it into our arrangement view in the middle, just like this. And bam! Now you have a sample in your arrangement. Good stuff. And speaking of, here's how to actually move around Ableton. If you hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows, you can zoom in and out using the scroll wheel, like this. And if you hold down the middle mouse button, your cursor will turn into this hand thingy, so that you can drag the position of where you are. So now let's click the beginning of this sample to select this moment in time and press spacebar. Mind blown, right? Yeah, I'm also noticing that this annoying setting is turned on. It's gonna make it so that the trackhead moves with whatever you play. So let me just turn that off because I can't stand it. There we go. Now we're not gonna have that moving us around where we don't want to. But see, wherever you click, that's where you start the playhead from. Let's put down a kick pattern now. Let me just make this shorter to demonstrate. And you can drag your mouse from here to here. So to select this little quadrant, this little square. And here's where our second keyboard shortcut comes in. I can press Command D to duplicate it, or Control D if you're on Windows. So this will duplicate whatever we have selected. This is a very useful keyboard shortcut. We're going to be using it a lot, and you don't have to remember all the shortcuts right away because I've actually made a cheat sheet for you with all of the most important ones in a tiny little document. Go to the link below to download it right now because it's going to make it much easier for you. And actually, let's select this and duplicate that a second time. And notice that because I selected this entire area instead of just the individual kicks, the empty spaces also get duplicated. So Otherwise it would have been like this. And I did that so that the kicks line up with the lines on the grid to sync up with these measures. See, because by now you've probably noticed that this is all split into like little quadrants, right? So what are these all about? They're basically measures that make sure your track is synced in time. Because check this out. I'm gonna turn the metronome on using this button right here, and I'm gonna play the track. Right now you can hear that the metronome is hitting at the exact same time as the kick, right? But what if we move the kick just ever so slightly off grid? See, it's not in sync with the metronome anymore. Here are the beginnings of when the metronome hits. That's what these measures mean. So let's undo that. Turn the metronome back off. And yeah, speaking of, it might be a good time to set the project tempo to however fast you want it to be. That's this number up here. You can drag it up or down to make the track faster or slower. But I'm gonna set this to like 130 beats per minute. Actually, you can just type that in, 130. There we go. But yeah, let's keep developing this. And just to make sure we don't need to keep pressing spacebar, we can loop this section so it wraps around to the beginning. So just select the time from here to here and press Command L. There we go. So now we have this loop thingy up here, and this loop button is now turned on. So now it's gonna be playing in a loop. Cool, let's keep going deeper. Now it's time to add a hi-hat. So press Command F and type in hat. This one's cool. And I could drag it in just like I did with the kick, but we've already done that, right? And there's actually a much better way to do it. Or anyways, it's one that I prefer. Because see, this track, right, this thing, this is an audio track, which means only audio clips can be put inside of it. An audio clip would be something like our kick here. So it could be a sample, like an MP3 file or a WAV file. You get the gist of it. But there's also MIDI tracks. You might be able to find them here, see? MIDI, audio. They're different. And just in case you don't have a MIDI track by default, let's create one. I'm gonna right click on one of these squares and press Insert MIDI track. There we go. Let's delete these ones because I'm just that OCD. So select it and press backspace or delete. Now let's get the hi-hat sample from earlier. And instead of dragging it into the timeline, I want to add it onto the MIDI track. So make sure you've got the MIDI track selected. So on the bottom area, it should say drop an instrument or sample here. And just in case this box doesn't show up in the first place, you might have to click down here. But yeah, this bottom area is called device view. It's where you add devices. Wow, right? Crazy. Devices could be stuff like instruments or effects, but here's the big difference. On a MIDI track, you can add both effects and instruments, whereas on an audio track, you can only add effects. That's why when you drag a hi-hat sample to our audio track's device view, nothing happens, but when you drag that same hi-hat sample to the MIDI track's device view, it loads into a sampler. So now it's gonna act like an instrument. Cool, so you should do that right now. Drag the hi-hat sample straight into your MIDI track, but an instrument won't play anything until you give it notes. So we need to make a MIDI pattern. And to do that, just double click somewhere in the arrangement in your MIDI track. And now this clip view thing showed up. See, it's the alternative view to device view. Right here, and you can switch between the two using Shift Tab. That's very handy. Don't worry, we'll get to it in a second, but for now let's just drag this clip out so it lasts for the entirety of our loop. So you gotta find the very small upper edge on your clip until your cursor turns into this bracket thingy, and then just drag it out like this. Awesome. And now clip view, this bottom window here. This is where we're going to be putting notes down for our instruments to play. And you can also hold down Alt and use the scroll wheel to zoom in or out vertically, just like that. And let's create a note on the pitch of C3. See, right here. So you might have to scroll up or down to find it, but let's put it down right here. So just double click. There we go. And actually, let's just hear what we did. See, I only put one note down, but it filled up the entire pattern. That's because loop mode is turned on right here. This is a setting you're gonna find in this menu on the left, which if you don't see it, you might have to drag the side panel out like this. So if we turn this loop mode off and only then drag out the loop, you'll see that it doesn't repeat anymore. I did want it to repeat though, so let's turn loop mode back on. There we go. And that's cool, except I wanted this to be a little bit less intense. But with the loop being only 2 steps long, it's gonna repeat itself every 2 steps. So using the length window here, I want to increase this. So click here and press the up arrow twice. So now this is gonna be 1 beat. And yeah, these numbers, I think we should address them because they might look pretty confusing, but they're pretty important to understand. This first number is the number of steps. So a step is just a 16th note. If you set your grid mode to 16th notes, you're gonna have the grid split into 16th notes. So that's what a step is. But if you take 4 of those steps, that's gonna give you a beat. That's this number right here. And if you take 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, that's gonna be a bar. So that's this number right here. Okay? So step, beat, bar. It's that simple. But now, instead of the hi-hat just playing a machine gun pattern like this, I want it to interplay with the kick. So I want them to bounce off of each other. So yeah, let's just delete all these notes. And I'm going to remove these notes and this note as well. So this is what we're left with. Just 1 note on the 3rd step. This is a very standard hi-hat pattern and you're gonna hear it all the time, trust me. So the result is pretty much the same thing that we did with the kick. We just put it down, except it's a little bit different. For example, if I suddenly decide that I want to switch the sound out for something different, like let's say I want to switch it out for this hat, I can just do that. Simple, right? But in the case of the kick, let's say I wanted to switch it out for this one, I can't just replace it that simply. I would have to drag it in and then make sure that every single instance gets replaced, because these are individual sounds, while this is more like an instrument. And the black squares that you see here are just the notes that it plays. Cool. I know this is like all technical and shit, but trust me, bro, it's worth it. We're gonna get to the fun in just a second. Actually, right now, because you've almost got the very basics down. We're almost there. But if you want to tailor these sounds and make them sound exactly how you want to, we need to go over some effects. So, as we already mentioned, device view right here, this is where you can add some effects. This is an instrument, but you can add some effects on top of it. Let's try this out. Let's actually go into the audio effects and let's find the EQ8. Maybe this would be better to show you on the kick. Let's add it onto the kick, so you can either just drag it or double click and it's gonna add it on whatever track you have selected. So this is what's called an equalizer, and it's pretty damn useful. It's basically a tool for changing the proportions between how much of each frequency there is. Because there's the low frequencies, mid frequencies, and the high frequencies. Right, so currently this EQ isn't doing anything. But we can tweak it like this to make the sound brighter or darker. And, you know, honestly, everything in between. We can do that. But this equalizer doesn't have all the knobs that you're gonna encounter on most effects. And actually, we don't really need it here anyway, so let's delete it. And let me show you another example. Go into audio effects again, and this time I want you to find the reverb. Let's add it onto our hi-hat this time. And yeah, let's just hear what it does. With this orange button, you can turn it on or off to hear the before and after. See, so the reverb basically makes things more spacious. And let's press the solo button that's on my hi-hat track, just so we can hear it in isolation and hear what the reverb is doing. Because there's also this decay time setting, which can make the reverb longer or shorter. You can also double click on any knob and it's gonna reset it to its default value. And there's all these other knobs that you can play with and see how they change the sound, but there's this one that I especially want you to pay attention to. The dry wet. You're gonna see it on pretty much every single effect out there, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a mixer of how much dry signal goes through versus how much of it gets wet or changed by the effect. So at 0%, we would have just a dry signal, so the reverb is actually doing nothing. And at 100%, we only have the reverb without the initial original hit. But at like 50-ish% and below, we kind of get a sweet spot where we hear both the dry signal and the effect. Cool, so that's reverb off the list. Let's uncheck the solo button now, so you can hear both the kick and the hat in context. But now for our last effect. I want this hi-hat to bounce around and kind of create copies of itself, so there's a bit more rhythm going on. So let's go into the audio effects again, and let's find the delay. We can just double click that. See, so that's what this does. And actually, I could tell you what each of these knobs and buttons do, but the beautiful thing is, I don't need to. Not because I'm not just saying that because I'm a nihilist or some shit. I don't think that it doesn't matter because we're all gonna die. It's the case is that I actually don't need to, because you can find it out on your own. If you press this info button right here in the bottom left corner, this info view will pop up. And now, if I hover my cursor over something, in info view, I'm gonna get information about what that something is. So you can literally explore every single part of Ableton, and this info view is gonna tell you what it does. For example, if I hover over ping pong, info view is telling me that ping pong, when enabled, the signal jumps from the left to the right output. Simple. And when you hover over the sub button, info view is telling you to better press that subscribe button and hit that bell. What? I didn't like this. It's info view that's telling you this. That covers the very basics. Congratulations, you just got through the boring part. Good stuff. I'm proud of you. You can now move around Ableton without feeling lost. So from here on, it's only gonna get way more fun. But before you move on, I just wanna say, if this video has already helped you, just imagine how fast you'd grow with my personal guidance. That's what I do for my one-on-one students. Take Omar, for example. Like, bro was feeling stuck for months. Like, he was just starting loops and never finishing them, and it was just all press and gas for him. But after implementing just a few simple systems in his workflow, he's managed to finish his first ever track that he's actually proud of. And in his own words, he felt unstoppable. So Like, dude, book a call, because I would love for you to feel unstoppable as well. The link to that is down below. Okay, now it's time for level 2. This is where you compose the rest of the loop. In this part, we'll put down some chords and learn some basic music theory. Then we'll make a bass using some sound design techniques. And we'll finish it off by making a lead melody using sampling. So lock in, because you're literally about to create the entire track idea and learn pretty much every single technique that you need to get started. Right, let's start by adding some chords. So create a new MIDI track. So we can just right click here, insert MIDI track, or you can press Command-Shift-D. That also works. And now we need an instrument. Let's find some piano just to keep things simple. So Command-F, piano. So let's just choose this, E-Piano Basic. That's cool. We can double click. Yeah, that's cool. But now you might be asking, wait, how the heck are you playing those notes? That's a very good question. I'm actually using my computer keyboard. See, I don't need an external piano or anything. Just make sure that the MIDI keyboard mode is turned on. That's this button right here. Or you can toggle it on or off by pressing M on your keyboard. And now I'm pressing buttons, but nothing is happening. And that's actually because we need to arm this track first. So it actually registers the input. So we gotta press this button right here. So it lights up red. And now we can play. If you're familiar with how a piano looks like, there's these white keys. So this is C, D, E, F, G, and so on. And then there's these black keys a little bit above in between. So this is C sharp, D sharp, F sharp. You get the idea. So on your computer keyboard, the setup is actually quite similar visually. You've got the white keys on the bottom row and the black keys in between. So this is C and this is C sharp. But what if you want to play it higher or lower? Well, there's the Z and X keys for that. They will shift the notes you play to a lower or a higher octave. So you can play freely. Yeah. And once you doodle in some melodies that you like, you can even press this button up here. Boom. Check this out, because what I've been playing just now, Ableton is goated for this. Like, this is the coolest feature ever. It's recording at all times, even when you're not recording. So whatever you just spontaneously played in, press this button and it's gonna pop up. But let's get rid of this now. I don't really like it. And yeah, what we actually want to create are some chords. So let's create a MIDI clip for our piano track. So just double click and drag this out and make sure that the loop length is correct. We want to set this length to be 2 bars because that's the length of our loop. There we go. And right now you can see that some of these notes may or may not be highlighted, right? So, like some of them are purple and some of them aren't. So what is all that about? This is the scale function. You can turn it on or off here. And you might need to press this highlight scale button as well. And I don't want to get too deep into the music theory for now, but basically a scale is like a guideline of which notes you should use. Some notes are going to sound good together, and some of them aren't. See, sometimes you might want that dissonance, but that's something we can get into some other day. And let's try to put down some chords. So, what is a chord? It's not a single note, but it's a harmony of multiple notes stacked on top of each other. And right now, I'm going to show you the most brain-dead simple formula to build chords. Buckle up. Looking at the scale of which notes are highlighted, choose a note to start with. That's going to be your root note. So I'm going to choose C, for example. Then going up further, again, only considering the notes in the scale, so the ones that are highlighted purple right now. So going up the scale, skip one note, and then add one note. Going up further, skip one note, add one note. Bam! So that gives us this. So because we started with our root note of C, this gave us the chord of C major. So this sounds kind of happy, right? But if we started with a different note, like D, check out what happens. So skip one note, add one note, skip one note, add one note. This gives us a D minor chord, which sounds more sad. And if I transpose it down, so I select it and move it down with the arrows on my keyboard, you'll see that this is the simple contrast between the two. There's just this small little difference in the distance between the notes. That's it. But yeah, this is out of scale currently, as you can see. So let's transpose this back up. There we go. So we have D minor. Actually, I want to put down a few more chords. So let's make this entire pattern longer. So first of all, let's drag it out. And right now it's repeating. So we need to make sure to set the loop length to one that's longer, so we don't have repetition and we can add some more variations. So let's set that to 4 bars. And yeah, let's drag this hi-hat out as well. And now for the kick. For the kick, we would have to duplicate it, right? That's no problem, but we can't just drag it out like this, right? Unless you select the entire length of the loop and press Command J or Control J if you're in Windows. So this is going to consolidate all the kicks that you selected, including the empty space as well, into one single audio clip. So that then we can press Shift Tab to go into clip view and turn looping on. Small little caveat I have to mention, you can only turn looping on as long as warp mode is turned on. So make sure it's turned on. So now we can drag this out like with the other things. Perfect. So let's turn soloing off. But the entire thing still loops back around too early, so we gotta fix that. Just drag this loop out so it's longer, and now that's the loop. Now we could add the remaining chords in the pattern. Let's press Shift Tab. So let's go for F as the root note this time. Skip, note, skip, note. That's kind of cool. Let's go for this. E, skip, note, skip, note. Perfect. So here we've got a progression of these chords. Simple enough, right? You can come up with your own chord progression now. And yeah, that's cool. I basically just taught you the basics of music theory. Once you get your teeth into it, it's really not rocket science, is it? But now, let's make the bass. And I'm also going to show you some sound design techniques while we're at it. So, unsolo this, and let's do a Command-Shift-T for a new MIDI track. And let's go into the instruments, and let's find the wavetable. Let's add it, double-click, onto our new MIDI track. And I want to show you the wavetable because it's one of the most versatile synths out there. So it's going to be very useful. But before we can start fiddling with the wavetable, we kind of need a pattern. Otherwise, we're not going to hear the bass and we're not going to have anything to work with. So let's create the pattern for it. So double click, drag it out. And actually, you know what? Let's do it another way. What you could also do is just select the length that you want this MIDI clip to be, and then press Command-Shift-M. Boom. So that's going to create this clip for you with the loop length already set to what you selected. But yeah, what pattern should we go for? Well, the simplest way to do this is to just follow the root notes of the chords. So for us, we had C major, D minor, F major, and E minor. So let's actually just draw that in. So we would have C, D, F, E. Perfect. We might want to shift this down an octave, so hold down Shift. Yeah, let's make the bass a little bit quieter maybe. But yeah, see, that sounds coherent. That's nice. Now let's press Shift Tab to go back to device view, and let's look inside the interface of this wavetable. Let me solo this for now. And first off, you can immediately see the wave shaping menu. So if you drag this wave up and down, you can choose the sine wave, the triangle wave, the saw wave, or the square wave. Each of them have their own sound, and you can even choose from this menu if you want to experiment and try out some other wave shapes. But let's stay on the saw wave for now. Then moving on, you have the filter. So you could close it to make the sound a bit darker, or open it all the way up and have all the frequencies coming through, so it's very bright. Then over here is the ADSR envelope. This is something you're gonna see on literally every single synthesizer out there, so it's very important to understand. ADSR stands for attack, decay, sustain, and the release. Attack is just the amount of time that it takes for the sound to fade in to the maximum level. So if you have a short attack, this is what it's gonna sound like. Very fast. And with a long attack, it's much slower. Moving on, we have the decay and the sustain. So these two are kind of connected, because the sustain is how loud the sound stays when you keep holding down the note. And the decay determines how long it takes for the sound to go down to the sustain level. So for example, if you have the sustain turned all the way down to the very minimum, that's gonna mean that even if you hold down the note, you're still gonna get a very plucky sound. And in this scenario, the length of that pluck is then determined by the decay. And lastly, the release. It's how long the sound fades out once you let go of the note. Now, with all that in mind, I want this bass to be pretty fast, plucky, and dynamic. So let's turn the sustain all the way down. The decay can stay at this value, I guess. And same for the release time, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. And the attack can also stay at the default. And there we go. That's cool, but there's one more thing I want to do to this sound to really make it pop. Check this out. I'm now gonna take the blue pill, like this, and you want to drink it down. There we go. And now we can go into the matrix. Get it? Because matrix. I took the blue pill. Yeah, the matrix is just a place where you can bind parameters to different modulation sources. These things right here are the parameters that you can control, and these are the modulation sources. So let's go back to this window, mod sources, and you can see that here we've got the amplitude envelope, which we've adjusted. Then we have envelope 2, envelope 3, and LFO1 and LFO2. So these things are the exact same that you see in the matrix. For example, let's take the filter frequency. So we gotta click on it so it actually shows up here in the matrix. And let's say we want to bind it to envelope 2, which is right here. So you want to find filter frequency here, envelope 2 here, and here they intersect. So let's now drag this up, turn it up a bit. So see, nothing new is happening right now because we actually can't see it. We got to turn the filter frequency down. And now, see, that's new. That wasn't happening before. See, so we already adjusted the amplitude envelope to adjust the volume of the synth. But now, because of what we did in the matrix, envelope 2 now controls the filter frequency. And it's the same principles with all the ADSR and stuff. It's just a separate envelope so that we can get more control over the entire thing. So let's make this very plucky as well. And we could maybe adjust the decay a little bit. And we can make this filter movement more accentuated by increasing the resonance here. See, this is that acid sound. Nice. Now, let's take advantage of this pluckiness, because this pattern is just this at the moment. So let's make it a little bit more dynamic. And what we can do is just follow the bass notes that we already have, but just add a little bit more of a rhythm to them. So for example, let's make this shorter. And I really like using a rhythm which is called the dotted rhythm, where basically you have 1/16th note, then you have 2/16th notes of empty space, and then you have a 16th note again. And then you have that repeat. 2/16th notes of space, 2/16th notes of space. So that's what that feels like. Let's keep going with this. Here we could maybe switch it up a little bit. Yeah, now that we have this, we can do the most stupidly simple thing ever and just duplicate it, bam, except just shift it to the corresponding notes. So we still have C here, we still have D here, F there, and E over here. There's just more of a rhythm to them. Let's hear that in context. Yeah, and obviously you could add some more switch ups here. For example, shift some notes around like this. We could also differentiate some pitches and add some like little accent notes. So maybe like this. Or put this down a bit. Really, you just gotta experiment a bunch and see what feels right. Don't be afraid to be wrong. This doesn't apply to just this, making the bass pattern, but music in general. Experimentation is what making music is all about. You cannot be afraid to be wrong. Anyways, there's one more thing I'm gonna do to this bass pattern to really make it pop. This is my secret sauce. I'm gonna add a groove. So, go into the section with the grooves, and what you want to find right now, yeah, you can see there's a bunch of different grooves right here to choose from. But right now you want to choose something that says 16ths on it. So yeah, this one works. Let's just drag it straight onto the bass pattern like this. And now you can see that something new popped up here. This is our groove pool. Actually, you can turn it on or off here. Yeah, it looks like something was already here, probably because of the default template or something, but it doesn't matter. We just added another one. Anyways, the global groove amount right now is set to 0. So it's not going to do anything. We got to set it to 100%. Yeah, so you can feel that, right? the groove pool is just an automatic way for Ableton to shift the notes slightly offbeat, to add that little swing, that human feel to it. You can choose to have a groove or not in this clip view thingy right here. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I pretty much add the groove to literally every single clip that I make. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, we're almost ready to arrange this into an actual track, but we've still got to make the lead melody. It's what the track will be remembered for, so it's very important. Let's do that. So I could just go for some preset, but I want this lead to be a little bit more unique. And I also want to showcase some more of Ableton's cool features for you. So I'm actually gonna turn my own voice into a lead instrument. And for that, we obviously need to record it. If you don't have a built-in microphone or any way to record audio, but you still want to follow along to this part, press Command F and search for this exact sample. Then you can skip to this timestamp and continue normally. But if you do have some sort of microphone, even one that's built into your laptop or webcam, here's what you need to do. First of all, you need to make sure that your microphone is actually being detected by Ableton. So if you go up here, you can find the settings, and bam, that's the settings. Or alternatively, you could just hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows and press the comma key. There you go. So in here, you want to go into the audio settings and make sure that the correct audio input device is selected. So for me, that would be Scarlett Solo USB. That's the audio interface where I have my microphone plugged into. And now, let's create a new audio track. The shortcut for that is Control-T. And then we need to press this button right here, so it lights up red. So this is gonna arm this audio track, so it actually gets input from your microphone. See, something is starting to happen there. So now I'm just gonna press this record button up here, and I'm gonna sing. Yeah, literally right now. Whatever. So, how do we turn that into an instrument we can play? First of all, we need to put it into a MIDI track instead of an audio track. We needed the audio to record this, but now we need the MIDI track. So, Command-Shift-T to create it, make sure it's selected, and now we can literally just drag this sample into the device view of our MIDI track. So now we can delete this, we don't need that anymore. And yeah, now I have it as an instrument. You might have to adjust these arrows to get the exact start time that you want. Literally right now. It kind of sounds like a lead melody, right? I mean, it might sound kind of dry. So yeah, let's add a reverb to change that. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. But there's a problem now. Let me show you. I'm gonna copy the bass pattern to our new instrument, just as a placeholder. And it's the same notes as before, so it should sound good, right? Oh, hang on, they're a bit too low. Let me shift the octave. It almost works, but it is a little bit off key. Even though like we use the same notes as before. So why is it out of tune? Well, we're actually not using the same notes as before. Let me show you. go into the audio effects panel and find the tuner. Let's add it. Oh, this is the wrong channel. We want to add it onto our lead, not the bass. So this is going to tell you which notes are being played. Right, let's focus on this part first. Let's just loop it and solo this. What we put down is C, right? You can see that. This is all C notes. But what we're actually getting, according to the tuner, is A. Why is that? Well, this device is the sampler. And what it does is it lets you pitch your samples up and down, right? Like I just sang one note, but I can play it all around the keyboard at every note I want. But the thing is that I don't have perfect pitch. So I actually don't know which notes I was singing. The default note that the sampler is tuned to is actually a C3. If I play a C3, it's gonna play my original sample without changing anything about it. In my case, the original sound that I recorded was on the note of A. So the note of C was actually playing A, which means that the note of C sharp was actually playing A sharp, while the note of D was actually playing a B, and so on and so forth. Like it was all over the place. But this just means that we need to make sure that when you play C, you actually get C. For us, when I was playing C, I was getting A. Let's look at the piano roll. A is here, and C is here. So to get from A to C, we need to go 1, 2, 3. 3 semitones up. Let's keep that number in mind, because now we gotta go into controls and transpose this sample to pitch it up by +3 semitones. See, now it gives us C, and we're actually having C being played. And boom, yeah, now let's listen to it in context. Cool. This whole out of tune thing made it so that we were playing notes that were out of the scale. And see, this is mostly a concern for samples. You just gotta make sure that they're playing the right note. Yeah, now let's make the actual pattern, because this was just a placeholder. So there's no rules, obviously, but I'm just gonna stick to the notes that are in the scale, and I'm gonna try to keep it simple. Let's make this quieter a bit. Yeah, could be something there. Now we could duplicate this, actually. Let's just make the loop length a bit shorter to have it repeat. Yeah, this gets kind of tiring, so I'm thinking the second time around we could make this a little bit of a stripped back version, maybe. So let's select these notes and press 0 to turn them off. Turn this off one as well. Yeah, this lead is cool, but I think there's a way we could add some more oomph to it. Let's group this sampler. So we could right click on it and press group, or we could just do Command G. So this is going to create an instrument rack. Let's press this to uncollapse this layer view. And this is where we can drop some additional instruments so that they're going to play the exact same pattern on top. So yeah, maybe you could use a wavetable, which you already know. See, so this is playing the exact same thing that our other instrument is playing. Oh, what the fuck? Wait, this was out of tune the whole time. I guess when I was showing you how to tune the thing, I forgot to retune it. Okay, that's a mistake. So I'm playing C, but it's giving me A. So I need to go from A to C. 1, 2, 3. So in the controls, we gotta transpose this 1, 2, 3. Yeah, now they're actually playing the same note. See? This threw me off. You gotta keep this in mind. Yeah, that's cool. I like what we did with the grouping to make this lead a bit more layered. But this project is starting to get kind of messy, right? So let's actually rename these tracks and sort it out so that we can stay organized. So let's click on this and we can press Command R to rename the kick to the kick. This is the hi-hat. This is the piano / chords. This is the bass, and this is our lead. And we can also right-click and color these things to be, I don't know, let's have the kick be gray. Let's put the bass next to the kick. The bass can be gray as well. The hi-hat could be yellow. The piano could be, I don't know, blue or green, whatever that is. The lead could be like pink. But as you can see, we changed the colors of these, but the clips still are the same color that they were before. So we can actually select all of these. So click the first one and holding down Shift, you want to click the last one. So that selects all of them from here to here. And now you can right click and assign track color to clips. So it automatically colors everything inside the track. Boom, that is great. And actually, that covers most of the composition techniques that you will need to get started. Congratulations, you're way ahead of all the other producers that are still trying to figure this out on their own. But you're not gonna just release this 4-bar loop on Spotify, are you? You still have to actually arrange it into a story. That's where arrangement comes in. Yes, it's finally time for level 3. I'm going to show you how to arrange, create automations, and I'm also going to show you a very well-kept secret about arrangement. It's exactly what the pros do to create arrangements that truly tell a story. So, up to this point, we've been stuck in this loop, right? So how do we get out of it? How do we stretch it out into a full track that's actually engaging? It's actually really simple. Let's zoom out a bit, and now we can just start dragging these elements to the beginning of the track. So again, find this upper edge of the clip, so your cursor turns into this bracket thingy, and drag it out. Simple. And let's actually hear how this sounds in real time. We want to experiment quite a lot. Okay, maybe you could start with the hi-hat. Yeah, thing is, you want to be experimenting a ton. Like, you're gonna be arranging and some ideas are just gonna pop in your head. Yeah, like maybe you'd want to add the kick at this point. Maybe take the kick away at that point. But again, you can't be afraid to be wrong. Try out all kinds of things until something sticks. But now I'm gonna show you a very useful rule that you can fall back on. This is something I've noticed after analyzing tons of professionally produced tracks, and literally every single one of them uses it. It's the 8-bar rule. Most of the time, they're gonna have a change happening every 8 bars. So, for example, it could be that they add a hi-hat, or that they remove a synth, or a new melody gets introduced. You get the idea. When in doubt, it's best to just have something change every 8 bars. It's not a dogma, but it's a very useful rule of thumb that helps a lot to prevent your tracks from getting boring. And actually, here's what I do to help me stick to that rule. I like to place down markers in my arrangement every 16 bars. So that's 2 8-bar phrases. So if you look from bar 1, that's what this number means, that's bar 1, to bar 17, that's 16 bars. If I select it, you're going to be able to see here in the bottom left corner. Length, 16 bars. So I want you to right click on this space between the actual timeline and the bar numbers right here, right click, and add locator at the point of bar 17. I like to place those down every 16 bars. So that would be here at bar 33, then moving on, this would be bar 49, and so on. You get the gist of it. This helps me to orientate myself in the arrangement. It's so that I know when a change should theoretically happen, right? Because I've got 2 8-bar phrases in there. Cool. So this is what we've arranged so far. Nothing too impressive. Maybe you could have the bass introduced here. Yeah, that kind of works. So here we've kind of got like an intro. And I'm thinking here we could go into like a breakdown section. And I'm thinking this would be a great moment to introduce the lead melody at this point. I've been holding off on adding it. This is my secret weapon. I don't want to reveal my cards too early. Maybe we could add it here. Yeah, I guess that's okay, but not gonna lie, I want it to be more gradual. Yeah, how could we do that? We could filter this in. So let's do Command F and search for auto filter. Yeah, make sure you've got the lead selected. Double click. That's gonna add the auto filter. So I want it to start off closed so that it's dark, but as time goes on, I want it to slowly open more and more, so it's brighter and it's a clearer sound. Kind of like this, but obviously we're not about to do this movement manually each time the track plays through. We're gonna do it automatically through, you guessed it, automation. Yes. That's where the name came from. So right click on this frequency knob on the auto filter and click show automation. Now, all these dotted lines have popped up. Don't worry, it's gonna make sense in a second. But this is the case because we're now in automation mode, which we can go in and out of using this little button right here. And these lines are there to represent the different knobs and parameters in your devices. The one that you have clicked most recently is the one that shows up. So if I click the dry wet on the reverb, it's gonna show up. Reverb, dry wet. But if I click the frequency, auto filter, frequency. So that's what this dotted line is representing right now. So I want to add some points right now. Let's say at this moment, I want this to be fully open, but I want it to start off closed, so we can bring this down a bit. Something like this. So this is the result that we get. Yeah, actually, maybe we could have the drop come back in here. So let's copy this kick and have everything carry on like this. And yeah, see this automation thing, this is really cool. We can do a lot with this. For example, we could make it so that the reverb of this lead melody will get gradually more and more washed out until it's a huge wall of noise, but then it could suddenly come back to clarity right before the drop. So actually let's do that right now, why not? I'm still in automation mode, as you can see. Now I'm going to click this decay time on the reverb, so it switches to showing that on the automation line. We no longer see the other automation, unless we click the frequency knob. Actually, if you wanted to keep it there, you could press this little plus button. So that's going to create a separate channel for that automation. And now if I press the decay, you can see both automations at once. Let's make this reverb decay gradually more and more washed out. So it could start here. And then at this point, I want it to be like, let's say 17 seconds. And then right before the drop hits, it would come back down. Yeah, kind of like that. And by the way, bro, I just have to warn you because I know this is gonna happen eventually. At some point, you're probably gonna adjust the actual parameter that you've adjusted, which is gonna overwrite the automation. So that means the automation gets grayed out and it just doesn't work anymore. But to make it go back so that it sticks to the automation you set, just press this arrow up here. Boom. Now it's restored. And that's all for automation. But this drop, this is lame. I mean, it's cool, but we can do better than that, because we are forgetting the most important rule of arrangement. The secret sauce. Contrast. If there's no contrast, it feels like nothing is happening. This drop, which is supposed to be like the most climactic, amazing moment of this arrangement, but the only thing that's actually changing is that, yeah, we're doing the reverb automation and we're adding the kick. That's it. That's kind of underwhelming if you ask me. But how about we remove everything else except for the lead melody right before the drop hits. Let's see how that feels. Maybe you could remove it a little bit later, like this. Yeah, what do you think? I think that's much better. Before we did that, the energy of the track went like this. It was building and building and building, and then it kinda went up. But after, it looked more like this. The energy was building and building, and then it went back down to almost nothing. And then the drop hit. This difference is much greater than this one. That's the rule of contrast. So we have now covered the basics, the composition techniques, and now we know how to actually arrange your music. I am very proud of you for getting this far. Like, genuinely, good job, bro. Dub me up. You've basically mastered Ableton now. I mean, of course, it's gonna take some getting used to, but you're on your way. Remember, I've made a cheat sheet for you with all of the most important keyboard shortcuts, so download it with the link below right now, because it's gonna be really helpful for you. But where do you go from here? Well, I'm very excited for you, because now that you don't need to stress about all the bullshit technical difficulties or not knowing which buttons to press, you can now focus on creating the actual music. But the rabbit hole goes way deeper. So if you'd like to take your music production seriously, book a call using the link below. And I'm personally going to fast track your progress to your music production goals. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm very proud of you. I'll see you on the other side.